أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف خلق الله محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. Inshallah, so far my brothers and sisters have benefited, have picked up on certain angles, certain issues that probably you were not aware of, probably you were aware of but didn't know how to tackle it, probably were aware of, knew how to tackle it but didn't know how important it was to implement it. Whether you are planning to get married, whether you are a newlywed, whether you are already married, whether you want to have children, whether you already have children, whether you are young, whether you are old, all of these things are applicable, are relevant to all of us. And God is my witness that while I was preparing these talks as well, I was benefiting very much and revising my notes and picking up on some new skills that I am able to implement for myself, for my family members, my children, and all those who I feel somehow responsible for. And therefore, it's not something that, I am conjuring that is, way out of this planet. It's not, in any way an innovative kind of idea or plan. It's this family plan that we envisage to have is things that we already have access to, but it's just a matter of dealing with them and managing them in the best way possible in order for us to get results. I think that's the most important thing here, because when we were talking about tarbiyah, when we were talking about the different methods, I've explained this in my parenting one-on-one program, that everyone has their own kind of take on what they should do, what they shouldn't do, what kind of approach is best. But ultimately, it's the results that are going to really speak out as to whether you are effective, whether you are successful or not. We all have struggles. Parenting is probably the most difficult thing because there's that fear within us that we have been either successful or we have failed as parents. And it's really, really scary. And inshallah, if you are not a parent yet, or if your children are young, you are going to gradually come to the realization that it really is scary. Not only as a parent, but also as a mu'min, as a mu'minah, because you know that you're going to be facing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Judgment Day. You are going to know that you are responsible, you are accountable for not only your actions, but also what you had facilitated for your children. So if you are going to fall short in any way, then that's going to be really, really damaging for you. And that's why we need to put effort. We need to make sure that we are doing what is best. Throughout my talks, throughout these episodes, I've continuously reminded my brothers and sisters that these discussions need to be further developed. You need to open up with them. You need to speak to a, for example, expert in the field. You need to consult with your parents, with elders, with your local scholar, and try to find means, new skills, develop these talents. And not only are you going to be a muallim, a murabbi for your own family members, your own children, inshallah, but also for those who are around you. We must always remember that this is one way of amr bil ma'ruf wa nahi anil munkar. And it's a very effective way as well for you to substitute another parent who is, for whatever reason, falling short in their duties. And this is why we are easily able to pick up on those challenging areas that some children might be facing, probably because issues at home, probably because of parents having problems between themselves, probably because of them growing up in a toxic environment at home, probably because of dysfunctionality happening, whatever the reason may be. So when we get to that stage where we have equipped ourselves with these wonderful skills inspired by our religion, inspired by Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, that's where we step in and hopefully be there for those who are around us. And that's a really, really great blessing that we can have. Alhamdulillah. Now, something that we know about that is embedded within our teachings is the 777 stages of tarbiyah. First 7 years, second 7 years, and the third 7 years. In some other ahadith, it could be 6, but mainly we can see that there is 7. For example, one hadith says, leave them for 7 years, discipline them for 7 years, befriend them for 7 years. Or the first 7 years they are a king. The second 7 years they are a slave. The third 7 years they are a minister. So for the first 7 years of a child, you should not be enforcing things directly. You should allow them to develop and grow and have that infancy, have that innocent kind of time in them developing themselves, in them venturing out into trying to, find who they are as young children and having their fun and having their games and everything else, playing and whatnot. And the method of disciplining during this particular time is the indirect disciplining. That's what we said in episode 8. Indirect discipline, where you're doing things and your children are catching along with these things by seeing and implementing them, because you're creating that environment for them. But when needed, yes, you do the direct discipline, but based on their particular age, their particular mental comprehension of what it is that they are doing. The second 7 is when you become more strict, more diligent, more direct in informing them about their duties, about their responsibilities, about their accountability to what it is that they are doing as well. And also gradually from the age of 7, hitting into 8, hitting into 9, gradually introducing the necessity of them starting to engage in their religion with more depth, with more responsibility, getting them to pray, getting them to fast, getting them to, for example, be more responsible for their actions. Preventing them, slowly preventing them from the mixing with those of the opposite gender, etc., etc., etc. Those kind of things. And then, of course, them being responsible and accountable for these issues. And then the third 7 is when you are their friend, you are feeling and making them feel that there's this connection between you and them, that you rely on them, that you trust them, that you depend on them in what it is that they're doing, because you're building their personality, you're building their independence. You are making them feel that they are valued in the household. So you give them chores and you say, well, this is what you're going to do. You are in charge. You are this, you are that. So they come to feel that, alhamdulillah, my mother, my father, they trust me in what it is that they're doing, that I'm doing. They've delegated these responsibilities to me because they know that I am a responsible person. So, these levels of discipline that's going to happen, you need to tackle each one in its specific age group. Now, you as a parent, you're going to realize that maybe this young boy or this young girl needs more focusing on, or needs less focusing on, or needs more disciplining, or needs more freedom. Or you're going to see, when you look at your children, each child is their own person. Each child has a different shakhsiyya, a different personality. So you're going to be tackling them based on their needs. And that's, of course, you mastering parenthood. And that's a really, really valuable tool that you are going to be using. So if we look at these stages that needs to happen, well, first of all, it's the stage of irshad and wa'd, for you to guide them, for you to be there for them in explaining to them the do's and don'ts of these kind of things. A next stage, if that advice, that guidance is not being effective in the proper way, you censure them, you reprimand them, you make them feel that they, of course, know that what they are doing is wrong and there are consequences for wrong behavior. The second stage is this stage of reprimanding. The third stage is the stage of you giving them the cold shoulder, you leaving them, putting them in the timeout corner, grounding them, depriving them of things that they, of course, are going to be very upset about, and that in turn is going to make them realize that what they are doing, the direction that they are going, is wrong. Send them to the room, for example, or stop them from going out and, for example, playing in the park. I think that there are certain things that we need to take a different approach to. For example, if you were to say you're not allowed to watch television for 1 week, here you are creating in their mind, consciously and subconsciously, that their goal, their objective in order for them to have good behavior is television and watching television. So that's their treat. Their treat for good behavior is television. And I think, personally, that's a wrong approach, because television isn't a treat. Television isn't a reward. Something else, some kind of a different approach needs to be taken if someone wants to deprive their children of something, or abandoning them or grounding them. That is going to be more effective, number one, and also give good results as well. Of course, the last resort, well, there is another last resort, but I don't think that that's going to be very much effective, and that the last resort is disowning the child, which, inshallah, in 99% of cases don't usually happen, especially if you are a good parent, especially if that household is structured in a really, really strong way. You're not going to get to that stage of disowning your child. And so therefore, this last resort that I would say here is physical discipline, for you to spank your child within the Shari boundaries, within the legal boundaries as well, And so physical discipline, you could agree with it, you could disagree with it, you could think it's a good means, a good way, a good method, you could think it's a wrong method. That's completely up to you. These are just, practical approaches that someone might agree with, someone might disagree with. But there are boundaries that you need to observe should you want to do physical disciplining. And there is a clear line between physical disciplining and physical abuse, child abuse. that, of course, is counterproductive, it is cruel, it is evil, it is un-Islamic, it is illegal. We're not even going to go that way because we know that it's in no way going to get you to the results that you want. And this is why this beautiful hadith from Imam Ali alayhi salam, he giving advice to his son, Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba salamullahi alayhi, he says, فَإِنَّ it's a part of the hadith, of course. فَإِنَّ الْعَاقِلُ يَتَّعِضُ بِالْأَدَبِ, because a sensible person is going to accept the advice when you are, of course, showing them the adab way, the correct etiquette of mannerism. بالآداب. والبهائم لا تتعظ إلا بالضرب. Then you've got animals, and the only way that they're going to take advice is by you hitting them, for example, right? والبهائم لا تتعظ إلا بالضرب, which is, of course, nowhere near how a parent needs to be treating and dealing with their children. You're not treating your children like animals. That's the worst approach for you to do that. Here there's a person who came to complain to Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam. شكوت إلى أبي الحسن Musa. Someone is saying, I complained to Abu al-Hasan, Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam, ibnan li, about one of my sons. فقال, and Imam al-Kadhim salamullahi alayhi said to this person, لا تضربه, do not hit him. وهجره, abandon him. Yani that method number 3. Ground him, abandon him. ولا تطل, this is really important. اهجره ولا تطل, don't allow it to drag on for too much, for too long. Don't push the boundaries of you ignoring him, giving him the cold shoulder for too long. That's not good at all. Unfortunately, some parents might do that for days on end, maybe for weeks on end. No, that is very wrong and counterproductive. In all, what we can see is adab is all about responsibility. It's all about us wanting to allow our children to be who they are growing up, but within the correct boundaries and perimeters, with good regulation. That's really, really important. But when we become paranoid, when we become scared, when we always think of the worst case scenario with our children, we're going to be shadowing our children. We're going to be bubbling them into small bubbles. And of course, that's going to be really, really damaging. We're sheltering them. We're not giving them that freedom that they need. We're not allowing them to be more independent from a young age. Let me ask everyone a question. How many of us allow our children to go walking by themselves to school? Genuine question. You'll come to realize overwhelming majority of parents in today's society don't allow their children to go walking to school, even if their school is very close by. Why? Always thinking of worst case scenarios. They're going to get kidnapped, they're going to get run over, that someone's going to take them, cut out their kidney and sell it on the black market. Someone's going to offer them a lolly and they're going to get in the car. We're not going to see them anymore. All of these really, really bad negative scenarios that pop up in the parents' minds. Why is that? Or they're going to get tired, or it's raining, they're going to get wet, and all these other really negative scenarios. And what are we producing? We're producing spoiled little kids who, if you don't, for some whatever reason, don't have the time to take your child, they chuck the biggest tantrum. Why is that? Look at, how people lived in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, walking to school, didn't have any dramas whatsoever. You're always going to hear those issues. You, the parent, all of these things that you're scared that will happen to your child could happen to you. All of these things that you're scared of could happen to your child inside school grounds, could happen to your child inside your own home. Don't be negative. Don't think of worst case scenarios. Do what is effective for your child. That's the most important. Give them chores to do. Make them do their own bed. Make them wash after themselves. Make them have their own showers independently. Make them pack their own clothes. Make them work in the garden. Give them chores to do. Give them responsibilities to do. Why are you doing everything for your children? And this is what we can see in most families in today's society, unfortunately. The child is the king in the first 7, the second 7, and the third 7. That's really, really wrong. Why is it that you are going to feel that your child is also not as social as they should be? Because they're hiding behind screens, because they are too preoccupied with irrelevant things, because they're gaming, because you did the worst mistake and gave your son or your daughter a mobile phone at an age that is not appropriate for them, then of course, recipe for disaster. Gaming, screens, mobile phone, you succumbing to each and every of their needs, you wanting to spoil them more and more and more, thinking that that's going to make them better people. All of these things are destructive, especially in today's society, And it's all because you are scared as a parent. No, go back to your roots, your traditional way of family, of children discipline, of managing your family, and always have balance. If you don't have balance, your children are not going to have balance. Your children are not going to be mentally stable as well. You really can't be bothered. You're really tired. You came back from work. You just want to focus on, finishing off what you've been doing. You give your son, you give your daughter a tablet, iPad or whatnot, and you're going to be absolutely comfortable for the next 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. No nagging, no complaining, no wanting this, no wanting that. So you're thinking more about yourself. You're not thinking more about your child. But then your child gets addicted to it. So when you start to say no screen time, they, of course, go into that tantrum mode, and you don't want any of that anymore, so you give in to them. And then what? ثُمَّ مَاذَا? Unfortunately, that's what is regularly happening today. No monitoring, no regulation, no limiting of screen time, gaming as much as possible, no control, and most importantly, as I said, no monitoring. What is your child playing? What is he playing? What is she playing? That exposure to violence and all these other things that are happening all at once is really, really bad. And as I said, the most destructive thing is this mobile phone. They're still young. They're still immature for them to be responsible in using the mobile phone in the correct way. You've got adults who are still irresponsible and not knowing how to do that. And that's why when you give them something, you need to give them something based on their level of responsibility and accountability. And you still monitor them. And you've given them those tools. So even if you walk away, even if you turn your back to them, they're still going to be using it wisely and in the correct way, because you've built that strong foundation that you trust them and they trust you. But you still need to be checking up on them, because you don't know what's going to happen. And that's exactly why there are certain things that I believe you really, really need to be careful of when it comes to your children, when it comes to yourself as well, as a parent, as a sibling. Number one, those who you associate with, those who you hang around with, your friends, your circle of friends. قُلْ مِي مَنْ تُعَاشِرْ أَقُلْ لَكْ مَنْ أَنْتَ. Those people who you are hanging around with, they're going to define what kind of person you are. Number two is change in your child's behavior. Something might be happening, could be bullying, could be emotional instability, it could be things happening at home, it could be things happening at school, it could be because they are under the influence of certain individuals that are dragging them away from their core family values and principles, and they have that sense of guilt, and therefore that's reflecting on their behavior. So find out why, indirectly first of all, then directly second of all. Number three, your child becoming secretive, you becoming secretive, maybe because of a relationship, maybe because you're interacting with someone that you know that you shouldn't, maybe because someone has told you to be secret and don't tell your parents about it. We know what kind of issues that is going to lead to. So we need to have this conversation with our children as well about sexual predators, about any form of abuse, about all of these things. You the murabbi, you the parents, you the teacher. Especially when it comes to, relationships with people of those of the opposite gender. We need to regulate that. We need to inform our son, our daughter, our sibling, our family member that, you know what, you need to be very cautious. You need to make sure that you work within the Shari'i boundaries of your interaction and whatnot. Number four is social media and the destruction of the destructive side, the destructive side of social media and all of those, if we could say, phobias, all of those addictions, all of those bad things that come about from these issues. And last but not least is pornography. And a lot needs to be said about pornography and how you need to keep your children away from their inquiry, from their maybe, interest, maybe just curiosity in wanting to look into this kind of area. Look at the statistics and look at what it says about children being involuntarily exposed to pornography through the internet and all of these other destructive means, and how much of pornography exists on website. You could be typing the most innocent of things and then you get these kind of vulgar, explicit results. Something like Cinderella or these kind of innocent things that go through children's mind, and then those destructive things come about. So these kind of things, this also needs to be spoken about, discussed, mentioned, giving them the tools that they need, equip them with the weapons they need in order for them to know that when you're faced with this kind of situation, what do you do? When someone does offer you something, or someone does say something to you, or someone, is in this kind of line, what do you do? And how do you tackle bullying? How do you deal with, for example, this situation or that situation? How about education? Well, we don't need to speak about what Islam says about the importance of education and talabul ilm and اطلب العلم من المهدي إلى اللحد, seek knowledge from your cradle till your grave, and all these other beautiful verses and beautiful ahadith from Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, all of them. And of course, one of them that I would like to share here is from Amir al-Mu'mineen Imam Ali alayhi salam, where he says, لا كنز أنفع من العلم. There is no treasure more beneficial than knowledge. And he then says, ولا قرين سوء شر من الجهل. And there's no evil, bad associate worse than ignorance. ولا قرين سوء شر من الجهل. You as a parent, you as an elder sibling, you as a teacher, you have that responsibility to, of course, teach your children the importance of education, for them to be ambitious, for them to be successful, for them to focus on their education, for them to strive their best, for them to always remember to respect their teacher and respect ilm and knowledge, and not see it as a burden, not see it as a punishment in any way that unfortunately we can see in today's society. What we usually see is how less children are interested in reading a book the traditional way. We know that, don't we? Not that many children really open up a book on their own and read through it from cover to cover. This is an issue that we need to tackle. You as a parent, this is the haqq that your child has over you, that you are giving them the education, that you are giving them the correct raising, the correct tarbiyah, the correct adab, and that you are teaching them the Quran as well. That's the haqq that the child has over you as a parent. And the child himself, herself, needs to pursue that. Maybe the parent is in a different world. Maybe the parent doesn't have that kind of interest. If you are of age, if you do know that your religion is requiring you to do that, then go ahead, start it, initiate it, and you're never too old to do that as well. Doesn't matter how old you may be, you can still learn language, you can still learn to recite the Quran and everything else. You can register in a Quran class, you can register in an Islamic school, for example, if you want to. But as a parent, it's not just you dumping them there and thinking that, well, I don't have any responsibility anymore. I've registered my son, my daughter in a Islamic school in Quran classes. I don't have that Absolutely not. Because your son, your daughter might be wreaking havoc over there. They might be disrupting the whole class and you not know, because you think that it's a dumping ground and you are no longer responsible for what it is that you need to be doing, and you carry on with the rest of your life focusing on these dunyawi matters. That's not how it is. That's not what you need to do as a parent. You need to pursue it. You need to make sure that you are effective in your approach. You need to make sure that you are with them along that path, and you are engaging in this particular field as well, being with them, monitoring them as well. Of course, all of this is going to be of no effect whatsoever if you are mistreating them, if you are insulting them, if you are degrading them, if you are abusing them. That's the worst kind of tarbiyah that you're going to be doing. Putting them down regularly, constantly, making them feel insignificant, making them feel of no value. What are you doing? You're not only destroying yourself, but you're destroying your next generation. You're destroying your offspring. You are destroying that family that you're supposed to be managing. You, the father, you, the mother. Maybe you might get a little bit angry in one instant and say something that you later on regret, but compensate that by making them feel that they are valued, that they are cared for, that you love them, that you care for them. You look, we were mentioning these hadiths about you building that relationship with your child, expressing that affection, kissing your children, hugging your children, showing compassion, showing love with your children in any way possible. And of course, always making sure that it's with balance, that you are not overindulging in this particular practice, because it's going to be counterproductive. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أكرموا أولادكم. Be generous to your children, value your children, honor your children. وأحسنوا آدابهم وأحسنوا آدابهم. And always make sure that you are on the top of your disciplining, your raising of your children. وَأَحْسِنُوا آدَابَهُمْ. Make sure that their mannerism is the best of as possible. يُغْفَرُ لَكُمْ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive you. That's, of course, really, really important. What's going to happen if you follow these very simple kind of steps? If you are managing the house in the right way, if you have built it on a foundation of harmony, of love, of respect, and you are implementing all of this in your household, you're not always tense with your spouse, you're not always fighting at each other's necks, you're not abusive, you are living under the shadow of the Quran and Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. You are living the Islamic lifestyle, the religious lifestyle. And again, this is not only going to be effective for a Muslim, but anyone of any other religion. You don't need to be religious in that sense for you to make sure that your priority is always going to be how you can keep your family intact. If you do these things, when your son, your daughter reach the age of bulugh, the age of religious maturity, you're not going to have any problems. You're not going to have big problems, I should say. You're going to have issues here and there, and disciplining is always going to be like that. Even if when they become adults, we always need someone to put us back on the path. We always need someone to give us advice. It's always going to be that way, always. And that's why the parent is always going to be a parent. Even if you become a parent, your parent will still be responsible for you. And so when they come of Islamic age and you've done all of your work, then they are going to naturally transition into that stage in a very productive, effective, positive way, because you've done all of the groundwork. They're going to pray on their own, they're going to fast on their own, and they're going to love what they're doing. They're going to do it with passion. They're going to love their hijab. They're going to love their identity. They're going to love conducting themselves with the highest level, the highest standard of Islamic mannerism, and they're going to honor all of that and everything else. That will be their identity. And of course, they're not going to be confused, they're not going to be lost, they're not going to try to adopt any other kind of identity, because they know who they are, they know what they are. You've done all the groundwork, you've facilitated all of the good things, you've made sure that you are in the best way functioning with a correct kind of environment, avoiding any kind of toxicity or bad things. And their loyalty is going to be, number one, to their religion, number two, to their family. They're going to honor their family, they're going to respect their family, they're going to be obedient to their family. And that's, of course, going to be a wonderful result that they have. You've had these discussions, you've taken them to the madrasa, you've taken them to Saturday school, to Islamic school, you've made them read books on religion and things like that. You've made them watch programs here and there, so they already know about what they need to do when they reach the age of taklif. They already know about ghusl, they already know about wudu, they already know about what's tahir, what's najis, they already know about all of these things. They know about behavior, they know how bad and evil stealing is and lying is and gossiping is. They know what adab is, they know that they shouldn't be rude, they know that they shouldn't use vulgar language, they know that they shouldn't be disrespectful, they know that they shouldn't be arrogant. They in every way avoid being selfish people. They don't want to become delinquents, they don't want to cross the law. They want to always make sure that they keep themselves proud and they keep their parents proud as well. They always want to make sure that they have a good reputation, because that's what all their life is going to be dependent on. Of course, the result of all of this is good tarbiyah. That's why one of the worst insults that a person can give someone is, look at that person, bala tarbiyah, bala adab, bi adab, bi tarbiyat, as they say in Arabic, in Farsi, bi sharm, whatever it is that people usually say, right? And that goes back to the parent. When they say bala tarbiyah, right, it goes back to the parents, because the parent most probably, because we can't just say, oh, well, it's the parent's fault all the time, or it's the child's fault all the time. No, it's a combination. And sometimes parents cover up for their children. There's this very famous Arabic saying that goes along the lines of Al-Qird b'ain umma ghazal. A monkey in its mother's eye is a deer, a gazelle. The monkey's mother, as much as the monkey's around and plays around and is naughty and things like that, right? The mother is always going to see their young innocent daughter, their young innocent son to be an angel, to be good, always trying to cover up. And unfortunately, you'll tend to see this commonly, and that is parents being in denial. You say to them, Yaba, your son is this, your daughter is that, and they'll say, yeah, but at least they're not doing drugs, or at least they're this, or what were you doing when you were their age, or what about Mr. So-and-so's son? What, that kind of covering up and denial, and rejecting any kind of means of assistance or wanting to help or informing them so they can take action, so that their son, so that their daughter don't slip any further away from morality, from good conduct, from good behavior, from mannerism, from that religious values, and all of these other things. What I believe the problem is, in most cases, when it does come to managing your family, especially your children, the main focus in this episode is how we are able to give our children the best exposure possible. When it comes to the children, parents, because of them being so preoccupied with other things, tend to delay their children from getting the good, correct Islamic guidance. the parent could probably say, focus on your school. Don't worry about anything else. When it's, for example, dua tawassul, dua kumaid, Friday night lecture, Saturday night lecture, Saturday morning Arabic school, Islamic school, whatever it may be. Oh, well, my son, my daughter, they're just going into high school. They need to be focusing on their high school. They're in a sensitive time in their education. It's year 11, it's year 12, it's uni studies, it's assignments, it's this, it's that. It's always going to be an excuse. When was the last time you saw any school curriculum say, well, you're going to study only maths for 4 years, then after that only science for 4 years, and then after that only this you don't do that. No one does that. You are studying everything parallel to everything else. And you can do that. You can be very good in education and also very good in your religious studies and also very good in your tarbiyah and also very good in your Quran recitation and also very good in your ibadah as well and also very good in participating in the masjid, in the Husayniyah, in the rituals, in the programs, Muharram, Ramadan, Majalis of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, dua programs. You can do all of that. That's balance. That's balance. And you can make the time if you want to. Don't hide behind excuses, not for yourself and not for your children as well. And this is why, of course, if you don't do this later on, when their personality has been molded into this particular way, when they've got to, unfortunately, mix with the wrong crowd, when that, kind of approach that they have to life is far away from what you had visioned them to have, it's going to be too late. You're going to regret it. And this is why that saying goes, العلم في الصغر كالنقش في الحجر. Learning at a young age is like scribing, is like engraving something on a rock. It's not going to go away. The older you get, it's like you writing something on sand. It's going to easily fade away. It's not going to be a part of their personality. It's not going to be a part of their identity. So if we were to do this and the children are given that good, positive kind of tarbiyah and ta'aleem and all of these things, you are going to get the best results possible. However, if you and your spouse are very much focused on this and you've learned the skills and you've learned the methodology and you are religious and you are alert and aware and you are making sure that you've created these boundaries and regulations and things like that, what happens if there's too much conflict between you, the husband, and the wife? Is that going to reflect on the stability of the household? Is that toxicity between you, that tension between you and your spouse, going to be detrimental and damaging to the child? The answer is yes. As young as they may be, as old as they may be, it's going to be damaging. And that's what, inshallah, we are going to talk about in our 10th and last episode. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi tahirin.